Well, here we go. Um, what I'd we're going to do what I had planned on today, and that is to look at um, European. Oh, these are good. Um, we're going to look at presentations you guys put together, and I'll play them, and we'll watch them, and after each, we'll have a little time for a question or two if you have a question or a comment. And I don't think we'll get through all of them today. In fact, I don't even have all of them, but let's go. These are pretty good. I've seen these. So number one, Armani, Mia, and Brooke, and there it is.
The statue of Marcus Aurelius, made by Armani James.
So can you guys hear this? Okay, good.
Brooke Gropey and Mia Vera. The index. In this presentation, we will be going over the life of Marcus Aurelius. The sections of the PowerPoint are: where was the statue founded, the history of his life, what was the purpose of the work, what power does it have, what's their belief system, power figures, formal analysis, their legacy, and then the resources will be at the end. Statue of Marcus Aurelius is from Rome, Italy, ca. 135 CE. It is 11 feet 6 inches high and made out of gilded bronze. This statue is in Palazzo dei Conservatori, Musei Capitoline, Rome. Biography of Marcus. Marcus Aurelius was born on April 26, 121 in Rome. He was adopted by a wealthy family when he was a little boy. His best educated subjects were rhetoric and philosophy. Later in life, he continued his studies in philosophy and developed a new interest in law. In 140, Aurelius became a leader of the Senate, a role where he would hold 2 more times in his political lifetime. He had more responsibilities as a leader in the Senate than past leaders. He got married to the emperor's daughter, Faustina, in 145. They had 2 children who they are best known for, their daughter Lucia and their son Codomus. Marcus died at the age of 58 on March 12, 180. His son succeeded his father, though was criticized by historians. The critics became because of his erratic behavior and lack of political and military background. The transition after Marcus's death to his son was described with sorrow because of this. What is the purpose of the statue? The statue has an important implication for connectivity that exists in the past and present in Rome. According to Khan Academy, the statue is an enduring monument. It is a singular artifact of Rome history, witness of the ebb and the flow of the city of Rome for nearly 1900 years. What power does it have? According to Wikipedia, Marcus seemed to be the bringer of peace rather than a military hero. This is how he saw himself and his reign. Marcus became an emperor in 161. In the 160s, Marcus and his brother Verus were in battle with the Parthian Empire for control over lands in the past. During the battle, Verus died in 169 and Marcus drove the Germans away alone. After the war, soldiers brought back diseases to Rome and it spread from there. Belief system. The statue of Marcus Aurelius was spared owing to its early misidentification as a portrait of Constantine. Early Christians destroyed the vast numbers of pre-Christian paintings in the beliefs that they were inspiring false idols. The policy towards the Christian church cannot be from historic education, but it leads to it embracing Stoicism. From the form, he learned that his master Theocritus had to check false accusations, inquiring from the accuser's proof of some other crime. The mere profession of Christianity brought teachers into a rivalry with the Stoic philosopher, partly for good and partly for mere evil. They found themselves brought into contact with men of pure mortality and a nobler fortitude than their own, with a strange, mysterious power to succeed where others have failed. Philosophy. Marcus Aurelius is a Stoic philosopher who made Meditations the writing of the philosopher. A contemporary biographer called Aurelius a significant source of the modern understanding of the ancient Stoic philosophy. Stoicism is a school of Hellenistic philosophy founded by Zeno of Citium in Athens in the early 3rd century BC. Stoic philosophy is a philosophy of personal ethics informed by its system of logic and its views on the natural world. Meditations are a series of personal writings by Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, recording his private notes to himself and ideas on Stoic philosophy. Public figures around the time of Marcus Aurelius, the pre-Christian Roman emperor Registano. Registano's statue was destroyed after the French Revolution. The Pope Paul III, government Roman Republic, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the Third War, Second Marcomannic War, and 177, the Cardi rebelled, followed soon by their neighbors, the Marcomanni and Marcus Aurelius, once again head north to begin the Second Germanic campaign. Formal analysis. The most notable line of the sculpture is a horizontal line of his arm reaching forward. Due to being a sculpture, it takes up a three-dimensional space, not a positive and negative space. The sculpture has no color or paint and is just shown with its original bronze, and the surface texture is metallic and smooth. The statue is over life-size and extends his hand in gesture of Aldo Cuscio, which means that he's giving orders to the troops. The horse he rides has been studied in order to be recreated for other artists' work. The saddlecloth was copied with the part of the standard Roman uniform. The saddlecloth is Sarmatian in origin. They rarely survived because there was a common practice to melt down bronze statues for reuse as material for coins or new sculptures in the late Empire. The statue is depicted on the reverse side of the Italian 50-euro coin, and it was designed by Roberto Mari. The replica of the statue is located in Brown University that was established in 1908.
Wait, there's more.
Okay.
It just took me a minute to realize that whatever I recorded wasn't playing, so that's why.
Yep, we're gone over in Wikipedia, Triptych, Historians, History.com, Stanford, Khan Academy, Religion Facts, and Biography.com. If you guys have any questions, this would be the time to now answer them while we are in class. Thank you for coming to our presentation, and we all hope you have a great day.
Very good. Get the screen back. Questions, comments? Well,
It was really good.
yeah, it was very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Funny thing is, I was like listening to myself and I actually sound like I'm doing like a voiceover for like an ad for some reason, like a ad on TV. That's what I sound like. And I get like comments at work saying I sound like a Six Flags worker because of a line that I have to say every single time a customer comes up to me.
The resources.
Oh, boy.
The resources, the index, just on and on.
Yeah. Well, I like one of the points you guys made, especially, and that is that a lot of these statues were destroyed, and for different reasons. One is that Christians tended to destroy a lot of pre Christian stuff, thinking that it was pagan or not Christian and therefore not particularly important. And the other is that a lot of times, especially with bronze statues, they would melt them down and make another statue or make coins, as you guys said. So I'm liking that. So good. Well, let's see. Let's see the next one. Robin and Melissa and the Pont du Gard aqueducts.
For our group presentation, my partner Robin and
Can
I
you guys hear it?
analyzed the Pont du Gard aqueduct.
Can you guys hear it?
Yep, I can hear.
Okay, good. I've got to check because sometimes things look different on my end.
Because it caught our attention the most. The architecture and uniqueness of the aqueduct, as you can see here in the picture, caught our eye and we were intrigued to learn more about it. I was excited to learn more about such an interesting piece of work within the research that I had conducted. While I was doing research on the Pont du Gard aqueduct, I was not disappointed with what I had found. It seems that the aqueducts were built for a significant reason during this time, and yet they still hold meaning to this day. Learning about pieces that were built years and years ago, yet still have significance to this day, is interesting, and I feel that we can learn something from the architecture of these types of pieces. The establishment and creativity that was put into this bridge is inspiring, and I was very impressed with what I have learned about this piece so far, and I hope to learn more as I go. So for our cultural context, this aqueduct was built halfway through the 1st century AD. It is a 3-story bridge measuring about 360 meters long. It was constructed out of soft yellow limestone blocks, as you could see before its orange and yellow tint. It was built to carry water across the Garden River, and its use was to supply water to the people living in need and was very important for their daily life, which is why it crosses over the Garden River close to the town of Pont du Gard in France. It was used to show the superiority of Roman urban civilization, as well as power and prosperity. And it also symbolizes the Roman ingenuity and represented the architectural culture of the Romans. So as you can see here on the left, this is a more zoomed out picture of where it is located on the country of France down to the bottom. And then to the right, it's a more zoomed in picture of where it is more located near the river, the Garden River, and the city of Nîmes.
So for our formal analysis, we chose 5 elements of artistic expression and decided to analyze them. So the Pont du Gard aqueducts, although an engineering marvel, are also an artistic expression of public unity through architecture. The structure is a stunning representation of balance as it relates to the strength of human progress. Its limestone blocks form tiered rows of symmetrical arches spanning from the source of water to its destination. These many arches show the artistic element of repetition as a whole and symmetry within themselves. The structure is unique in that although it functions primarily for water transportation, it can also be experienced by people on foot who travel within it as a bridge, emphasizing the element of scale, letting viewers marvel at the grand accomplishments of the Romans. For legacy, we decided to focus on 3 areas, including French identity, tourism, and literary references. For French identity, many French monarchs in the coming centuries after the fall of the Romans would seek to associate themselves with this symbol of achievement and power by visiting the Pont du Gard, accompanied by grand entertainment. For tourism, French journeyman masons frequently stopped by the Pont du Gard and left their names on the stones. By the 1990s, massive tourism had taken advantage of the bridge via illegal tents set up for tourist shops and vehicles passing over the bridge. In 1996, a new project to pedestrian the bridge began by the French government along with the EU. A visitor center was built on the north side of the structure and provides historical context for visitors. Here you can see visitors on the second level of the Pont du Gard aqueducts overlooking the Gordon River. For literary references, the Pont du Gard has been observed by many great novelists since it became a tourist destination. In 1783, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a Genevan philosopher, writer, and composer, visited the Pont du Gard aqueducts and wrote this: "I wandered about the 3 stories of this superb edifice, although my respect for it almost kept me from daring to trample it underfoot. The echo of my footsteps under these immense vaults made me imagine that I heard the strong voices of those who had built them. I felt myself lost like an insect in that immensity. While making myself small, I felt an indefinable something that raised up my soul, and I said to myself with a sigh, why was I not born a Roman?" In 1884, novelist Henry James also visited the Pont du Gard aqueducts and said, "When the vague twilight began to gather, the lonely valley seemed to fill itself with the shadow of the Roman name, as if the mighty empire were still as erect as the supports of the aqueduct."
So as we were doing our research, we found some interesting facts we wanted to share with you today. So first off, the Pont du Gard aqueduct is the highest out of all the other Roman aqueducts built. It is used to carry about 1.4 million gallons of water a day when it was used back then. It took around 15 years to build and needed around 800 to 1,000 workers just to build it. And when the Roman Empire collapsed, it was one of the places that was the ones that were stayed intact. And it is to be known as one of the most popular places that attracts tourists to today. So every year, there are popular events to attend at this location. And this is one in particular shown in the pictures. And it is the Sound and Light Show series, also known as the Les Fères du Pont. As you can see here, they display videos, lights, and flames, especially up at the top, they show videos of animals. And then at the bottom, it's a more colorful pattern. And they also display fireworks.
So for our closing paragraph, I'll just share what I wrote about my experience with the Pont du Gard aqueducts. I chose the Pont du Gard because I've always been fascinated by how ancient civilizations managed to create complex infrastructure. I used to marvel over aqueducts as a child and had forgotten all about them until this class. I think it's a testament to human ingenuity that the Romans were able to build a solid water transportation system and support entire cities using this method. Simply applying gravity and basic engineering helps them provide a life force to an area and promote growth of civilization farther away from water sources. I am also inspired by the organization and cooperation of the workers who created this. Without advanced technology, the level of teamwork and planning would have to be incredible. That alone makes it very impressive to me. When people can work together well, there's no telling what may be accomplished. Much like the building of the pyramids or any other ancient structure, I'm sure the creation of the Pont du Gard was a symbol of human accomplishment and problem solving the Romans were proud of. So these are our resources, and we hope that you enjoy listening today.
Thanks for listening.
So, what'd you guys think? Can you hear me?
I really liked the lights that they like can put on the building, the sculpture, the architecture. Sorry, I had to think of the word. Yeah, I really like that part the best. The lights. I thought that was really pretty.
Well, I thought so too. And you know, it's kind of interesting what people do at these ancient sites, and the laser light show is another example. There are festivals around Stonehenge and other places. I think they are personally quite remarkable, and I really appreciated what you said about in the formal analysis and this thing being a thing of beauty and art and architecture. They're together. It's hard to separate them out. And as you guys know, they kind of bleed into each other, where the painting or the sculpture is part of the building, and so on. And so we have our own. Hopefully, 1,000 years, 2,000 years from now, they'll still be looking at the Gateway Arch and doing light shows and things. So anyway, anybody else? Questions, comments, or should we move on to Caitlin and Abigail's presentation on the Parthenon? So, can you hear it?
Welcome to our group presentation. My name is Joachim, and my partner is Caitlin.
Armani, can you guys hear it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Rodriguez. For our group presentation, we had the option of choosing a work of art before 1300. There are many ideal candidates for this assignment, with all of the work differing greatly from one another. However, the piece of artwork we ended up choosing was the Parthenon. Parthenon is located in Athens, Greece. Personally, I chose this topic because of the architecture and design of it. I'm also more interested in three-dimensional pieces of work instead of the flattened two-dimensional pieces. I learned about this masterpiece in my other History of Interior Design class, and it really interested me and caught my attention. With this project, I was able to take what I learned from my last class, but also go deeper about why this was made and who it was made for. The little architectural details about it amazes me, as well as how it was made. In addition, I chose the Parthenon for this final project because of my family. Both of my parents and my older sister lived in Italy before I was born. My parents lived there for about 7 years, and my sister for about 2.5. My father was employed on an army base through the Boeing Company in northern Italy. My parents, they used to tell me stories of visiting all of the sites of the museums throughout Europe, but especially about the Parthenon. My father has since been to Europe and Greece several times on business travel, and always makes the effort to visit the Parthenon because of how beautiful he says the structure itself is, as well as the city around it. Time and place. The Parthenon was built in the 5th century, around 447 BC to 432 BC. It was built during the reign of Pericles. Pericles was a general of Athens during the Persian and the Peloponnesian Wars. The Parthenon was built on the Acropolis of Athens, Greece. The Parthenon sits high atop a compound of other temples. This compound is known as the Acropolis of Athens. This helps symbolize the structure's power and importance to the city of Athens and all of its people. How it was made. How the Parthenon was made was quite impressive. The whole thing was built by the famous architects, Callicrates and Dictynus. All of it was also under the supervision of Phidias. It is said that the construction workers ended up mining at least 100,000 tons of marble. They got this from a quarry, and then after that, they then wheeled it up the incline of Acropolis. The distance between these two locations was about 10 miles. The blocks were then hand-trimmed and carved on site. Many massive columns were made with shallow flute. The design of the columns followed the elements of the Doric style and the Ionic style. The Doric order happens to have a more simpler style, while the Ionic has more festive and decorative features such as the frieze. The east and west ends of the interior of the building are each faced by a portico of 6 columns. Measured by the top step of the base, the building is 101.34 feet wide and 228.14 feet long. As you can see in the picture, there are many differences between the Doric order and the Ionic order. So these are a few features of the Parthenon which makes it unique. The purpose of the work. The purpose of the Parthenon lies within a contest between the Greek goddess Athena and the Greek god Poseidon. The city of Athens was searching for a patron, and the decision lied between Athena and Poseidon. A patron is a deity or a spirit who is a guardian or protector of a particular place, geographic feature, person, nation, etc. As the story is told, Poseidon took his trident and struck a rock and produced a spring of salt water, representing his gift of the waters of the sea. Athena touched her spear to the ground and gifted an olive branch, representing the prosperity of the land. The Athenians chose Athena's gift and named her the victor. They built the marble temple in her honor. The building name, Parthenon, literally means the Virgin's place in Greek. And this coincides with Athena being the virgin goddess or the goddess of virginity. On the east side of the Parthenon, located above the main entrance, the pediments represent the contest that was held between the two Greek gods. The image on the screen is an exact visual representation of the pediments that were sculpted above the east entrance of the Parthenon, displaying the battle for the city of Athens. The Parthenon was built for the purpose of honoring the Greek goddess of Athena for her victory over Poseidon as the patron of the city of Athens, Greece. The power and belief system. The Parthenon was built as a powerful shrine to worship the goddess Athena. The statue of Athena is located in the center of the temple. This structure of this building was also the physical testimony to Athenian power and prestige among other Greek city-states. The strong vertical columns help exaggerate the height of the building. This then enhances the composition, which makes the building appear to extend toward the heavens and extend toward the gods. The combination of the vertical and horizontal structures generate the senses of stability, permanence, and reliability. Because this was designed in a rectangular shape, that shape helps represent dominance. The Parthenon is one of the most famous and recognizable buildings in the world. Designed as a testimony to the Athenian greatness, visible for miles from the Acropolis on which it stands, the Parthenon still stands proudly among the remains of a massive complex of buildings that celebrated Athens' deities. It has been seen as central to the history of Western civilization and as a symbol of democracy. It is a witness to the lasting legacy of the ancient Greeks and their architectural ingenuity but it is also a very good reminder of the fragility of Western power.
Okay, comments, questions?
I like how she mentioned about like her family beginning of the presentation, how she heard stories about Italy, and I think that's like very interesting.
I really love the story of Athena and Poseidon. I didn't know anything about that, so that was really cool to learn.
Good, yeah. I know you guys have done some as a group and individually. You guys have done some good research. Well, let's see what we got here. There it is. Okay, Destiny and Maggie, Christ as the Good Shepherd.
Hello, my name is Maggie Zimmerman.
See it and hear it. Can you see it and hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to start off our PowerPoint. And my partner was Destiny Scott. And the subject matter that we chose for our PowerPoint was Christ as the Good Shepherd, the sculpture. I'm going to start it off by talking about why I personally chose this subject matter for myself. I grew up in the Christian non-denominational church my whole entire life. That's where I just was always based at. And so I'm used to seeing this sculpture in the Bible, in pictures and churches, like just everywhere. I'm so familiar with it. So I figured it would be a good choice for me. And another reason that I chose it was because I really liked how every little aspect of the sculpture had some significant meaning and symbolism behind it. Like his curly hair, the youthful face, the sheep on his back, his stance, his clothes, everything about it sort of tied the whole thing together, which I can really appreciate. To get into some cultural context, the sculpture is entitled Christ as the Good Shepherd, as I previously mentioned. And the time it was created was around 300 to 350. And you can find it in the Pio Cristiano Museum in Vatican City, Rome. And it is made of white marble. The purpose of the work is mostly just that God is never going to leave us behind or stray us, for my personal opinion. Now, if you were a different religion, you might see this piece as something else or interpret it a different way, but that's just how I feel about it. And that's how a lot of art historians seem to see it as well. So, like it says on the slide here, it says statues like this one were made to represent Christ without being specific as to whom it is. So in this time period, a lot of people were not meant to be worshiping someone other than the hierarchy, like your kings and queens. You were supposed to worship people that were here on this earth rather than someone in a different universe. The power for me is that, like I said previously, that God is never going to stray us behind, and he's always going to take care of us and lead us in the right direction. And a lot of people think that the meaning behind this work is that there's going to be like a peaceful afterlife and it's going to invoke some peace in other people. And this piece doesn't really say like who it was made by. You can just kind of assume that it was made from the people for the people.
The belief system of this sculpture is Christianity, and God being the shepherd cares for his sheep, the believers. The legacy of this sculpture. The legacy left by this sculpture is that it's a major icon in the Christian religion, that is because of when it was made, why it was made, and who made it. Many Christians today are extremely familiar with this piece. Even if they don't know the name, they will recognize it. Shepherds bring together several aspects of Jesus' identity. And why we chose, in my opinion, it looked like this sculpture looked like it has like more information and more story behind it. And when we was researching it, it had Bible scriptures of how Christ became as a good shepherd. It has a nice story between Christ and how he became. Thinking the sculpture would be an easier subject matter to talk about. And, it feels like the beginning of creation, the beginning of life. No one actually exists. And yet, we have someone given to us, something pure. And I believe this sculpture says that there's love from God in it. We are the Lamb, and He is our shepherd.
Okay, very good. Questions? Comments? Well, we can move.
I
Well-
really like the design layout
Oh.
of it.
Yeah, go ahead. Brooke.
Oh, I said I liked the design layout of it. It was really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. Are you guys artists?
I'm pretty sure it was just like a template on PowerPoint. If I'm being
Well,
honest.
you chose a good one, so it's all good. Okay, well, I think this will be the last one that we take a look at tonight. And it's on the Pantheon, not to be confused with the Parthenon.
Hello, and welcome to our first presentation on the Pantheon.
Can you hear it and see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Let's start with some cultural context and basic history of how the structure came to be. The name of this beautiful historical temple is called the Pantheon. It has officially reached 1,984 years since completion. The building's resting spot is in Rome, Italy. Construction began in 25 BC because of Marcus Agrippa, who was the son-in-law of the first Roman emperor. He had the intentions of building an ordinary classical temple. This would be structured as a rectangle with a gabled roof supported by colonnades on all sides. However, it was completely rebuilt between 118 to 128 AD, or at least we think, by the Emperor Hadrian. Hadrian became the emperor in 117 AD. He was known to be extremely passionate about art and architecture, which is one of the few known reasons he took on such a large project. It is important to note that Hadrian was the emperor when much of present-day Europe and parts of the Middle East and Northern Africa were still considered to be a part of the Roman Empire. This is also why it's common to see similar architecture inspired by the Pantheon in these other places. It's believed that Marcus Agrippa designed the building to be a temple for the Roman gods. Besides that, there are few kept records as to the real purpose of the building itself. Even though we know Hadrian took on the project, many records are lacking as to show who ultimately designed it and how long their construction took. Even though there is a lack of records, the Pantheon very clearly inspired the architecture of countless buildings. Throughout history, its inspiration is seen across Europe and the Americas. Today, the Pantheon continues its use as a church and is a major tourist destination in Italy. If you break the word Pantheon down into its bases of pan and theon, it means all and gods, respectively. Ultimately, the Pantheon represents the culture of time through artistry. There's a lack of records to tell you the direct and full history of this time period, so the details is really in the art. You can piece together how they valued their gods and to what extent they valued their gods. You can gain a sense of the values they held by the way they depicted them. Culture from this time period is greatly represented through artistry, and it's most common to find these buildings in temples that are still standing today. An overview of a culture's gods and the values and beliefs placed within them gives you a reflection of the society itself. This is a major piece of artwork for the Roman.
Next is the formal analysis of the building. The first section is line. The building combines vertical, horizontal, diagonal, and curved lines. The vertical lines are created with the columns at the front face of the building, and horizontal lines are created from the stairs. The diagonal lines are used to create the triangular shape at the front of the building, and the curved lines are able to create the body of the building. The next section is shape and form. The Pantheon combines several shapes to create the overall outlook of the building. Starting at the front of the building, the columns and base create a rectangle shape with a triangular shape on top. Behind the triangle is another rectangular shape. The main body of the building is created with a circular shape, making it a dome. The form of the building is a three-dimensional form because it was actually built and can be visited. The next section is space. Space was a bit tricky because it's used in a painting sense and is defined as creating a three-dimensional quality to something that is two-dimensional. If a piece has depth and if it creates the illusion of space within a piece, it's well done. Since the building is a real place and not a picture, I included the measurements of the dome. The dome part is 142 feet in diameter and the height is 71 feet. The next section is color and is divided into three subsections of hue, value, and intensity. The hue of the inside is mostly yellows, reds, and oranges. For value, we look at the red box, the marble, and the art on the sides of the walls and see that they are mostly light colors. The intensity of the room is strong in some areas, like the red boxes on the floor, the rich striations of marble, and the orangish color on the walls. As for the outside of the building, it is a lighter tan that is not an intense color. The final section is texture. There are several textures created throughout the building. On the outside, there is the smooth stone with little imperfections created over the years that it has been standing. At the top of the columns, there is a texture created that almost looks like leaves curling over. The texture within the inside is mostly smooth because the walls and the floor, because of the marble in the walls and the floor, except the columns and the inside have a ribbed texture to them.
Hi, I'm Jillian and I have legacy. Much of the Pantheon's surroundings were demolished in the early 4th century and early 7th century, but the building still remained. The Pantheon later became a church known as Sancte Maria Rotonde, where the Pope would hold masses during Lent. There has been many losses of original furnishings, sculptures, and bronze elements over time. Some elements, including columns, doors, and steps, have been added, while other elements, such as roof tiles, have been replaced. The portico and dome elements of the Pantheon have influenced Western design elements for centuries. Some famous buildings in the United States, such as the U.S. Capitol, the Jefferson Memorial, and the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., have all been modeled after the Pantheon in Rome. Thomas Jefferson even incorporated elements of the Pantheon's architecture into his home in Charlottesville, Virginia. Several monarchs and Renaissance figures are buried here, such as the painter Raphael or the architect Baldassare Peruzzi. Today, the Pantheon is a major tourist destination while still functioning as a church that holds masses regularly. As of 2017, about 7 million people visit the Pantheon each year. The building is managed by the Ministry of Cultural Heritage and Activities and Tourism. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, all right. Questions, comments? Well, all right. Well, good job, everyone. You guys did good work. I'm happy with everything. Wanted to give you a little preview of what to expect next week. Monday is, we'll come back and see the rest of the presentations. And if you look on the syllabus, we have a pop quiz. Or we have a quiz, it's not really a pop quiz. Quiz number 6. And I'll tell you what that's going to be over. I haven't finalized the exact questions, but it will be over these presentations. And I'll be asking you questions about what you did, how was it working with your partner, what stood out as a good presentation to you, and I'm not letting you vote on who gets what grades. I just want to know which of these that you found most compelling. And I want to get some feedback on what we can do to make this run a little more smoothly next time. This is our first foray into remote learning and doing virtually everything virtually. You know what I mean? And so I think you guys did a good job with it. There were some hiccups along the way, but it looks good. It looks very good. And so that will be Monday, presentations and a quiz. And as usual, I'll give you some time to think about your answer and probably maybe do like midnight Tuesday. On Wednesday will be our final lecture. And I think partly because things kind of got slowed up due to the format, due to the newness, due to just a number of things, we won't get to the last few chapters of this volume 1. But I want to put something together that kind of gives an overall kind of summation of what we've seen and what's in those final chapters. And then that'll be it. We'll be done. Any questions?
I do.
Yeah, Armani, what you got?
How do you make holy water?
Well, basically, it's just regular water and it's blessed by a priest.
That's simple?
That simple.
Cool.
Yeah, good thing I was brought up Catholic. I had the answer for you. And so anyway, I thought a lot of your comments were very thoughtful. I thought the research was good. And so it's almost 7 o'clock. Want you to stay safe. Thank you for everything, and I'll see you Monday.
Good night.
Good night.